And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Wednesday, September 29th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories read here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. So here are the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. A Yakama County, Washington state couple enrolled in the Yakama Nation has been convicted in federal court for conspiring to illegally sell bald eagle and golden eagle parts. Jurors in U.S. District Court in Yakama convicted 38-year-old Ricky Washamwa last week on 3 counts of selling or offering to sell eagle parts and 1 count of selling wildlife in violation of the Lacey Act. His wife, 39-year-old Victoria Jim, was convicted of conspiracy, 2 counts of selling or offering to sell eagle parts, and 1 count of acquiring wildlife in violation of the Lacey Act. Their attorneys argued they were following traditional Native American ways in collecting the feathers and other parts. Native leader and fishing groups traveled to the nation's capital recently to try and stop development of a huge copper and gold mine in southwest Alaska. The Pebble Mine is near some of the world's most productive wild salmon streams and is being readied for permitting beginning next year. Tom Tilden, chief of the Chugiyum Tribal Council, said 6 tribes in the Bristol Bay area are seeking Washington's help because state officials refuse to hear their concerns. With permitting to begin as early as next year, the tribes are worried, Tilden said. Alaska never has seen a mine it didn't want to permit, Tilden said. Tilden was accompanied on the trip by officials with conservation group Trout Unlimited and 2 business groups, the Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Marketing Association and the Alaska Independent Fishermen's Marketing Association. Colorado's new U.S. attorney says he wants to work closely with leaders of 2 Colorado tribes there. John Walsh said that good working relationships are important because criminal investigations in Indian country can involve state, federal, and tribal authorities depending on the crime. Walsh, who was sworn into office in August, was in southwest Colorado to meet with leaders of the Southern Ute and Ute Mountain Ute tribes. Walsh said an initiative to cross-deputize police and sheriff's deputies is helpful because it allows them to respond to crimes regardless of tribal boundaries. Former U.S. Attorney Troy Ead started the practice some 4 years ago. Lawyers representing American Indians in Wyoming have won a voting rights lawsuit against Fremont County, and they are now seeking over $880,000 from the county. Members of the Northern Arapaho and Eastern Shoshone tribes sued Fremont County in the year 2005, charging that at-large voting with county commissioners violated federal laws by diluting the American Indian vote. U.S. District Judge Alan B. Johnson ruled for the Indians this spring. The legal team filed papers with Johnson late last week asking him to approve over $730,000 for legal fees, over $40,000 for paralegal work, and over $100,000 for witness fees and other expenses in the case. In Arizona, Congresswoman has proposed setting up a trust fund to help tribal communities rebuild after decades of not being able to make even minor repairs to their homes because of a land dispute. A draft of the legislation released by Representative Ann Kirkpatrick's office calls for setting aside a percentage of federal appropriations for the next 14 years. It would amount to $56 million a year based on the president's proposed fiscal year 2011 budget, according to her office. Former U.S. Commissioner of Indian Affairs Robert Bennett imposed the ban on improvements in 1966 to help settle a dispute over land that both the Navajo and Hopi claimed as their own. The freeze originally covered 1.5 million acres of Navajo and Hopi lands, but was reduced to $700,000 acres on the western side of the Navajo Nation. Residents couldn't fix a broken window or leaky roof or bring electricity to their homes without approval from the neighboring tribe. Residents used flour sacks as window coverings and put tires on their roofs to keep them from blowing away, lit their homes with kerosene lamps, and still haul water from distant wells. Congress lifted what was known as the Bennett Freeze last year, but no significant funding has gone toward rehabilitation of the buildings and dwellings in that area. The new Intertribal Center in Central Wyoming College in Riverton is scheduled to open in early October. College spokeswoman Carolyn Anstead says an official dedication is not planned until November. The Riverton Ranger reports that the center will be home to a number of classrooms and offices. Tribal elders will have access to offices in which to conduct business and reach out to the community. The building also will house the departments for Native American and Western Studies. And Central Wyoming College's collection of Native American and Oregon Trail artifacts will find a new home in that building as well. The building has 4 classrooms, 1 large conference room, and 1 multi-purpose center there. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to say miigwech for joining with us. Come back real soon.